I woke up in a damp, dark wooden shack, my head throbbing as if it were about to split open. Memories that weren't mine flooded my mind, swirling together until I finally understood my situation. I was in the Lingwu realm, a lower plane of existence. I had self-destructed my physical body to save my soul, and by some miracle, I had been reborn. Yaoji, Hanxiang. The names tasted like poison. In my past life in the Taekwon Heaven realm, I was Feng Wuchen, the greatest prodigy the heavens had ever seen. I reached the peak of the heavenly sovereign realm before I was even 200 years old. I was on track to become the youngest heavenly emperor in history. But when the ancient Longyuan inheritance appeared, the two people I trusted most, my lover and my best friend, betrayed me. They ambushed me at my weakest moment. Rather than let them have what they wanted, I destroyed my cultivation and blew myself apart. If the heavens didn't let me die, then I would make sure they paid in blood. I took a deep breath, trying to adjust to this new body, when a girl's desperate cry echoed from the courtyard. Please, don't take my cold marrow. My mother left this for me. No. Then came a man's cruel laughter. Let go, you little brat. You think your useless brother is still the heir? Let me tell you, young Master Feng Mo has awakened a fire-type heavenly spirit vein. He's the real genius now. As soon as the family head finishes his seclusion, Feng Mo will be the new heir. As for you, the elders decided to marry you off to that idiot from the Lin family. I frowned, forcing my weak body off the bed. I stumbled into the yard and saw two servants, one fat, one thin, tugging at a 12-year-old girl's hair. This was Feng Ning, my sister in this life. She was sobbing, clutching something to her chest, even as she winced in pain. Damn mongrel, the fat servant growled. Give it here, or I'll send you to the afterlife right now. He raised a massive fist and swung it straight at her head. He was a martial artist in the Hotian realm. A punch like that would kill an ordinary, sickly girl instantly. The thin servant watched with a twisted grin. I didn't think. I moved. A shadow blurred across the yard. Thud. Who the fat servant gasped. His fist had hit my palm, but it felt like he'd struck a wall of solid steel. He looked up, his eyes widening in shock. You? He realized it was me, the useless brother they had just been mocking. A sneer returned to his face. So you're not dead yet? Fine. I'll finish the job. Before he could finish his threat, I struck. I buried a fist deep into his gut. There was a dull crack, and his bloated body flew backward like a cannonball, smashing into a stone wall. He slumped down, coughing up blood. The thin servant stood frozen. How? You've been a cripple for a year. I looked at my fist, dissatisfied. This body was pathetic. A full-force strike from me should have killed a Hotian weakling instantly, yet he was still breathing. The thin servant swallowed hard, backing away. I'm warning you. We were sent by young Master Feng Shi. Feng Shi. The name triggered a memory. The dog that follows Feng Mo around. You dare call him a dog? I didn't answer with words. I spun and delivered a sharp kick, shattering the man's teeth. He hit the dirt, groaning. I'll count to 3, I said coldly. If you're still in my sight, you stay here forever. 1. You'll regret this. They scrambled to their feet, limping away as fast as their legs could carry them. Once they were gone, the adrenaline faded. My face went pale, and I nearly collapsed. Brother, you're hurt. Feng Ning rushed to support me, her tears falling like broken strings of pearls. Help me inside, I managed to say. Back in the room, I faced a cruel reality. This body had no spirit veins. In this world, without spirit veins, you were nothing but trash. As I searched my new memories, the full story came out. The original Feng Wuchen had been abandoned by his parents at age 5, leaving him to raise his sister alone. Feng Ning had a rare condition where her fire elements were dangerously unbalanced. She needed the cold marrow and expensive medicine just to survive. To save her, Feng Wuchen had worked himself to the bone for the Feng family. A year ago, the wealthy Lin family offered a deal: marry their daughter, Lin Wan, and they would provide the medicine. But it was a trap. On their wedding night, Lin Wan used a secret technique to strip away Feng Wuchen's high-grade thunder spirit vein, stealing it for herself. She became a dual-vein genius and was scouted by a major sect. Feng Wuchen was tossed aside, a hollowed-out shell. To make it worse, The Fong family never gave the medicine to his sister. They used it to groom their new favorite, Fong Mo. We were just discarded pawns. The original owner of this body had died today from pure despair. My veins were gone. My foundation was destroyed. Even if I took my old veins back, I had nowhere to put them. I sat there in a daze. I was a heavenly sovereign in my past life, but even the best cook can't make a meal without rice. Was I destined to live out this second life as a failure? No, I growled. I won't accept this. My rage triggered something deep within my soul. Suddenly, a terrifying power exploded from inside me. A sharp, piercing pain stabbed through my brain, and the world went black. When I opened my eyes, I was floating in a void, covered in blood. Feng Wuchen, hand over the Long Yuan inheritance. Shouts and battle cries echoed from miles away. I looked around, dazed. This was the Taekwon Heaven Realm. This was the exact moment I had broken through the enemy lines. Had I never been ambushed? Was the rebirth just an illusion caused by the inheritance? Then, a wave of icy killing intent surged from behind me. I spun around and saw her. It was Yao Ji, her face twisted with a murderous, wicked grin. A bright, cold sword flashed before my eyes. The tip was less than 3 inches from my brow. It was Yao Ji. This woman, the one I had treated with nothing but sincerity, actually wanted to kill me. Fury surged straight to my skull. My face twisted into a mask of pure rage. Yao Ji, you poisonous snake. I'll kill you, I screamed. My pupils dilated as I fought with every fiber of my being to change this fate. But I couldn't move. I watched, paralyzed, as the blade moved to pierce my forehead. How could this be happening? Then, the cold steel sank into my brain. Sharp, agonizing pain exploded through my consciousness, and the world around me shattered like glass. When I opened my eyes again, I gasped. I wasn't in the Taekwon Heaven Realm anymore. I was floating in a vast, swirling void of chaos. In the center of this void stood a massive structure. It was a black tower, shaped like a giant sword pointing toward the heavens. It had 9 levels, and a sinister, terrifying black mist seeped from within. Every floor except the first was wrapped in chains as thick as water buckets. Even from a distance, the aura coming from that tower made my skin crawl. This is... I stammered. I knew this tower. It was the Long Yuan inheritance. This was the very thing that had caused Yao Ji and Lu Xiang to betray me. Its origins were ancient and mysterious. Even in the Heaven Realm, there were few records of it. Some said it came from a civilization that had vanished eons ago. Strangely, I felt a sudden sense of warmth from it. It felt familiar, as if the tower and I were one. I frowned, thinking back to the explosion. I get it now, I whispered. The energy from my self-destruction was absorbed by this tower. That's why my soul didn't vanish. Long Yuan saved me. The scene I had just witnessed, the betrayal, wasn't happening now. It was a memory fragment, pulled in by the tower along with my soul. Suddenly, a loud clank echoed through the void. The chains on the second floor began to shake violently. Something inside was trying to break free. I felt a cold sweat break out. I remembered when the first floor was unsealed in my past life. A sword-wielding phantom had emerged and slaughtered countless experts. It took 3 heavenly sovereigns dying in battle just to suppress it. Was this tower a prison? Was every floor holding a world-ending powerhouse? I swallowed hard. I was in a lower realm now. If one of those things got out, a single breath from them could shatter this entire world. Just as the panic set in, the chaotic mist began to swirl and coalesce. It formed into a middle-aged man wearing a black robe. Long hair fell over his forehead, hiding most of his face. He waved a hand dismissively. "Get back," he barked. Instantly, the chain stopped shaking. The tower went silent. My jaw dropped. He suppressed that terrifying entity with just 2 words. Who was this man? He looked toward me. "Oh, already in a lower realm? It seems your rebirth was a success." I narrowed my eyes. "Who are you? Why are you inside the Long Yuan?" "Don't ask," he replied coldly. "All you need to know is that since Long Yuan chose you, you are qualified to cultivate my inheritance. You can become the strongest sword cultivator in existence." An inheritance? A sword cultivator? It made sense. Sword cultivation was the ultimate path of war. No wonder they kill me for it. My heart started racing. Boy, the man said, his voice dropping. Kneel and accept the inheritance. A crushing pressure slammed into me. It was heavy enough to snap bone, forcing me toward the ground. But I didn't buckle. I kept my back straight, standing as firm as a mountain. Why don't you kneel? He demanded. I clenched my fists, my hair whipping around my face in the invisible wind. My eyes burned with defiance. The only people I ever knelt to are long dead. I spat. In this world, even the gods don't have the right to make me bow. And you? You're just a lingering thought. You want me to kneel? Dream on. The man's gaze turned sharp. Your spirit veins are gone. Your foundation is trash. Only I can put you back on the path of cultivation. You have no other choice. The pressure doubled. I could barely breathe, but I forced a smirk onto my face. You can rebuild my veins? Impressive, I said through gritted teeth. But I don't believe in free lunches. Long Yuan didn't choose me for no reason. It followed me through death because it had to choose me. The pressure vanished instantly. A flicker of approval crossed the man's eyes. A talent seen once in 10,000 years, he mused. That arrogance, it's a lot like mine. He gestured toward the tower behind him. But shouting slogans is useless. See the tower? If you have the guts, enter it. Refine it. If you succeed, the Long Yuan itself will become your spirit vein. Even a god-grade vein won't be able to compare to you. If you can do that, then you don't need to kneel. Using a tower as a spirit vein? Even as a former heavenly sovereign, I had never heard of something so insane. Spirit veins were ranked from yellow to god-grade. In this world, Fong Mo was considered a genius just for having a low-tier heaven vein. This man was claiming the tower was better than a god-grade vein. You don't believe me? The man laughed. With your current horizons, that's normal. I was stunned. He knew about my rebirth, so he must know who I was. To him, a heavenly sovereign was someone with limited horizons. Was he from a realm even higher than the Taekwon heaven realm? I promise you, the man continued, my inheritance is stronger than any technique you've ever seen. But it is also more dangerous than anything you can imagine. Dangerous? I didn't doubt it. There were 8 more monsters locked in those upper floors. If I turned the tower into my veins, and they broke out later, I'd be erased from existence. But I was the top genius of the heaven realm. I wasn't going to be scared off by a little risk. My destiny was to surpass my old self and kill my way back to the top. I only had one path. I walked toward the tower. Without a word, I stepped through the open gates of the first floor. The room was empty, except for a single sword hovering in the air. The man's voice echoed in the chamber. This is the first sword of Long Yuan, Finyang. This is the first blade you must refine. Oh, and one more thing. The man warned me that the refinement process would be agonizing. He said it would feel like 10,000 swords piercing my heart, and if my will wavered for even a second, I would be turned into ash. He asked if I had thought it through. I didn't need to think. My clan was wiped out when I was 16. I had spent half my life wandering, surviving countless life-and-death struggles and inhuman torture. My heart was already as hard as a rock. What were 10,000 swords compared to that? Without a word, I reached out and gripped the hilt of the sword. The moment my fingers closed around it, a flood of strange characters rushed into my brain. They swirled and shifted until they formed a cultivation technique, the Lutian sword script. Then, the world started to shake. The Long Yuan sword tower trembled violently before shrinking and surging directly into my dantian. But the most lethal part was the Finyang sword itself. It broke free from my control and began thrashing inside me like a wild beast. Violent fire energy rampaged through my veins. The pain was indescribable. It felt like my soul and my body were being incinerated at the same time. I couldn't help it. I let out a guttural scream. To refine the tower, you must first fuse it with your flesh, the middle-aged man's voice echoed. This will hurt far worse than having your spirit veins stripped. Kid, run the technique I gave you. I'll help, but whether you live or die is up to your own luck. He began chanting a formula about using bone and blood to support the tower, turning the body into a sword and the tower into veins. The agony surpassed anything I had imagined. I drifted in and out of consciousness, trapped in a cycle of torture. During those moments of clarity, the memories of this body finally fused perfectly with mine. I saw the face of that treacherous woman from a year ago. Lynn. I remembered her mocking smile as she told me she could never love a parentless bastard like me. She told me that having such a high-grade spirit vein was a waste for someone without power, that its only value was to make her a genius with dual veins. She told me to stay in Luofeng City and be a loser for the rest of my life. Lynn 1. The Lynn family. If I don't settle this debt, I don't deserve to be called Feng Wuchen. I don't know how long the suffering lasted. In my half-awake state, I heard the man speak again. He sounded surprised that I had actually survived. He told me that from now on, my path would be different from everyone else. I didn't need to cultivate like a normal person. I only needed to fight and kill. The Lutian sword script would make me stronger with every drop of blood spilled. Then came the warning. Every floor of the tower held a peerless sword cultivator. They weren't necessarily the strongest, but they were definitely the ones who had killed the most people. The first floor was open now, but the second seal would break in 3 years. When that happened, there were only 2 outcomes. Either I refined the second sword to strengthen my veins, or the sword master inside would kill me. The man said he had exhausted too much energy and needed to sleep. He left me with one last bit of info. The Finyang sword was mine now, and it would grow in power as I did. While I was undergoing this transformation in the hidden space, the outside world was in chaos. It was evening in the Fong estate. Auspicious clouds gathered in the sky, and a brilliant 7-colored light bathed the entire compound. The sound of dragons roaring echoed through the air. The people of Luofeng City were stunned. They called it the auspicious crane phenomenon, a sign from the heavens that usually only appeared when a supreme genius broke through or awakened a powerful soul. The elders and juniors of the Fong family gathered in the courtyard, looking at the sky with reverence. Fong Chongqing, the family head and the strongest fighter in the clan, stepped out from his seclusion. He was disappointed he hadn't mastered his new martial art yet, but he couldn't ignore an omen like this. He demanded to know who had caused it. Everyone stayed silent until Fong Chongyun, the family's second-in-command, rushed in, trembling with excitement. He shouted that his son, Fong Mo, had just broken through to the Qi manifestation realm an hour ago. The courtyard erupted. Fong Mo was so young, yet he had already reached a level that took the elders a lifetime to achieve. With him, the clan now had 5 Qi manifestation experts. In a small place like Luofeng City, that was enough to dominate. Some people whispered, wondering why the omen appeared an hour after the breakthrough, but the family head didn't care. He asked if anyone else had broken through. No one answered. That was enough for him. He officially announced that my position as the heir was stripped and given to Fong Mo. No one objected. When I finally woke up, it was late evening. I checked my internal energy and realized I was already at the first level of the Qi transformation realm. In this world, cultivation was split into 9 stages: mortal, Qi transformation, Qi manifestation, golden body, blood sea, fish dragon, creation, Dao merging, and immortal. Being back at the second stage proved it wasn't a dream. I had successfully refined the tower. With a thought, the Finyang sword appeared in my palm, radiating a gentle warmth. Like cultivators, weapons and items were ranked in 9 tiers: mortal, spirit, earth, heaven, king, emperor, sovereign, saint, and immortal. The man had said the sword would grow with me. I stood up, feeling the power humming in my new veins. Would you like the summary of the next chapter? Your rank depends on my cultivation, I muttered, looking at the Finyang sword. Right now, you're probably just a level 0 weapon. The moment the words left my lips, the blade flashed with a crimson light. Suddenly, images flooded my mind. It was the madman from the tower. I saw him again, that terrifying expert from the heavenly realm, executing a technique from the Taishan records. In my mind, the vision slowed down to a crawl. I could see every muscle movement, every shift in his weight, and the precise path of his blade. Boom. The vision ended with a roar in my head. In that instant, the sword technique was branded into my soul. I stood there stunned. It was a move designed for one purpose: killing. It was powerful, cold, and absolute. I felt a sudden surge of confidence. With this sword in my hand, I felt like I could cut down ghosts, gods, or immortals. The more I fought, the braver I'd become. The more I killed, the stronger I'd get. I realized this nameless technique shared the same core essence as the Luotian sword manual. Was that madman more than just a prisoner in the Dragon Abyss? Before I could think further, my door creaked open. I moved fast, stowing the Finyang sword away just as Fong Ning rushed in. She threw herself into my arms, trembling. "You're finally awake," she sobbed. "You fainted suddenly today and started saying such strange things. You scared me to death, brother." Looking at her red, swollen eyes, my heart twisted. A sharp, stabbing pain flared in my chest. Another face flashed in my mind. A girl the same age as Fong Ning, just as innocent. She was the pain I could never escape. I remembered a rainy night from my past life, holding my sister as the life slowly drained out of her. In my blurred vision, the two girls' faces overlapped. A wave of grief washed over me. I was useless back then. If I had been stronger, she wouldn't have died under an enemy's blade. Without thinking, I reached out and cupped Fong Ning's cheek, my eyes misting over. "Brother," she whispered. Her voice snapped me back to reality. I looked at her differently now. She looked so much like my sister. "I'll protect you," I murmured, more to myself than her. "Even if it costs me my life, I will protect you. I promise." "I don't want you to risk your life," she choked out, her voice breaking again. "I just want you to be okay. I want us to be together." I wiped her tears away, my heart aching. "Don't worry. I'll always be with you." She managed a small smile. "Promise?" "Pinky swear." "Silly girl." I laughed softly. Holding her, my mind raced. I wasn't the original Fong Wuchen, and she wasn't my blood relative, but I had been given a second chance at life. This time, I wouldn't let the tragedy repeat itself. At dinner, there was only one small piece of meat on the table. Fong Ning looked at it, swallowed hard, and then decisively picked it up and put it in my bowl. My heart sank. Over the past year, since my cultivation was destroyed, the Fong family had cut off our allowance. Fong Ning had been the one taking care of me, living in poverty. She was clearly starving, yet she still gave me the best of what little we had. I felt a lump in my throat. I stood up and patted her head. "Stay home tonight, Ninger. I need to go out for a bit." Her face paled. A year ago, I had said the same thing. When I came back then, I was covered in blood and my spirit veins were gone. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice trembling. "To find some meat for you," I said. Then, I turned and vanished into the night. About 10 miles outside Luofeng City lay a massive mountain range that acted like a natural barrier. It was a dangerous place, but it held the most precious resource, demonic beasts. I wasn't just there to get a meal for my sister. I needed to test my new power and that killing sword technique. In the Qi transformation realm, I could channel energy into my limbs to boost my physical strength. I moved like a blur, covering the 10 miles in 15 minutes. Once inside the forest, I summoned the Finyang sword. I moved cautiously, listening to the rustle of the leaves. Sha-sha. A chill ran down my spine. I sensed danger behind me. I spun around, took a deep breath, and let my instincts take over. I swung the sword exactly as I had seen in the vision. A flash of red light cut through the dark. A split second later, a gray wolf's head hit the ground. "Just a level 1 wolf," I muttered. Level 1 beasts were only as strong as humans in the mortal realm. They were barely a challenge. The madman's technique was for life and death combat. This wouldn't help me grow. I had to go deeper. By dawn, I was locked in a fierce battle with a level 2 black bear. "If I kill you, my little girl can eat for half a month," I grunted. The bear roared, sensing my challenge. It slammed a massive paw down. Bang! The impact sent me flying. Even though the Finyang sword absorbed most of the blow, my chest burned and my blood churned. The bear was surprisingly fast for its size. It charged at me, kicking up clouds of dust. Instead of dodging, I smiled. According to the man in the tower, I couldn't grow like normal cultivators. My path was different. I had to understand sword intent. I had to become a true sword cultivator. In this world, the path of the sword had 7 stages: form, intent, chi, potential, heart, no self, and godhood. Most people were just swordsmen in the form stage. They just used the weapon. But a true sword cultivator reached the intent stage, where the sword moved with the mind. They were peerless, nearly invincible among their peers. I used to have a lightning spirit vein, which meant I could never have been a sword cultivator. But now that my veins were gone, the path was wide open. Looking at the massive beast charging at me, I had only one thought: kill. If my heart wavered now, I'd never cut down a god. It was success or death. Kill, I screamed. The bear's claws were inches from my face. In that heartbeat, I moved. A surge of spiritual energy erupted from my body as I gripped the Finyang sword. My hand moved with a speed I didn't know I possessed. It was several times faster than before. I swung. The sound of cold steel tearing through thick flesh echoed in the silence of the forest. The massive black bear let out a final, choked breath and crashed to the ground. It was dead. I let out a long, shaky exhale. In that single strike, I had touched a mysterious realm. My sword had accelerated threefold in an instant. Was this sword intent? The madman's technique truly was a killing art. It was terrifying that it allowed me to grasp such power in such a short time. By touching sword intent, I had officially become a sword cultivator. However, I realized I still hadn't fully mastered even the first move the madman taught me. Usually, once you reach the intent stage, you can master common sword techniques with a single glance. This meant the technique I was practicing was far higher in rank than I had imagined. As I sat down to regulate my breathing, my dantian suddenly trembled. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth began rushing toward me like a whirlpool. My pupils dilated in shock, then shifted into a grin. I was breaking through. First level of the innate realm. Second level. Third level. I broke through 2 stages in a single night. The man in the tower hadn't lied to me. This speed of growth was monstrous. Not a bad bonus, I muttered to myself. It was time to head back. I needed to get some real food for my mother. I grabbed the massive bear carcass by the leg, ready to haul it home. But I froze. A powerful presence was closing in fast. Based on the speed, this person was at least at the Foundation establishment realm. Who's there? I demanded, spinning around. When I saw the newcomer, even with my experience as a former supreme, I felt a momentary daze. She was stunning. Her features were perfect, her skin as white as snow, and she carried a cold, arrogant aura that made her seem untouchable. She wore a white robe that fluttered in the wind, looking like a goddess who had descended to the mortal plane. She spoke first. This black bear is a leader among level 2 beasts. To kill it at your age, you must be the genius of the Fong family, Fong Mo. I didn't expect you to be a rogue sword cultivator. No wonder you triggered the heavenly crane omen. I frowned, ready to correct her, but she had already unsheathed a deep blue longsword. Since you are a sword cultivator, you are worthy of my blade, she said coldly. Come, fight me. I was caught off guard. She was looking for Fong Mo, not me. Sorry, I said, picking up the bear again. You have the wrong person. I'm not Fong Mo. Her brows knitted together in disbelief. Don't worry, I mean you no harm. I am Yu Ching, a disciple of the Qingchen sect. I only wish to exchange pointers. I kept walking. You really have the wrong guy. Impossible, she persisted, her eyes full of stubbornness. A place like Fong City couldn't produce 2 geniuses like this. If you won't strike, I'll force your hand. Before I could react, she blurred. She was behind me in a heartbeat. Her sword lunged forward. She was fast. Her sword intent was already at the great success stage. I couldn't afford to be careless. I dropped the bear, spun around, and slammed the Finyang's sword upward to parry. The impact was massive. Even though I had reached the intent stage, my actual cultivation level was far below hers. The force sent me skidding back 30 feet before I could steady my feet. Yu Ching paused, looking confused. Third level of the innate realm? Why are you so weak? Are you really not Fong Mo? She shook her head. No matter. To grasp sword intent at the innate realm is enough. I'll suppress my cultivation to your level. Again. She vanished again, charging at me. This time, my own battle intent was ignited. Fighting someone with great success sword intent was exactly what I needed to grow. Bring it, I shouted. In a flash, we exchanged over 10 moves. Her sword was still faster than mine. Her technique was incredibly sharp, at least Earth grade. One mistake, and I was a dead man. Our blades clashed again, the force burying my feet into the dirt. She used the momentum to leap into the air, coming down with a lightning-fast strike. My eyes could see it coming, but my body wasn't fast enough to dodge. As the tip of her blade drew within a foot of my forehead, A chorus of mad laughter erupted in my mind. Asterisk kill. Kill. One sword to change the world, to slay gods and Buddhas. My vision went pitch black. It felt like I was possessed. I didn't pull back. I didn't dodge. Instead, I lunged forward with a counterstrike aimed straight at her vitals. In that moment, I finally understood the essence of that madman's move. To kill the enemy, you must first be willing to kill yourself. Only by disregarding life and death can the sword truly reach its peak. Yu Ching's face went pale. She sensed a mortal danger she hadn't expected. My blade was inches from her throat. If she hesitated for even a second, she would die. Boom. At the last possible moment, she released her full power. A massive wave of energy exploded from her, blasting me and my sword backward. I tumbled through the dirt, feeling the raw strength of her true cultivation. The golden body realm. She wasn't much older than me, yet she was that strong. I picked myself up, covered in dust and looking like a mess, but I started laughing. She had to use her overwhelming cultivation to blow me away. In terms of pure sword technique, I had won. Better yet, through that life and death exchange, I had fully mastered the first move. My cultivation surged again, hitting the 4th level of the innate realm. What was that move called? Yu Ching asked, her voice trembling slightly. She could still feel the lingering scent of death. It has no name, I replied calmly. It is simply a sword meant for killing. She looked at me for a long time. I didn't expect to find someone like you here. You really aren't Fong Mo. Do I have a reason to lie? She nodded slowly. Fine. In terms of sword moves today, you won. Tell me your name. When you reach the golden body realm, we will fight again. Fong Wuchen. Fong Wuchen, she whispered, memorizing the name. While she was lost in thought, I grabbed the heavy black bear and started the long trek back to the city. My only goal now was to get home and roast this meat for my sister, Ning. But as I entered the city gates, I stopped. The streets were lined with red lanterns. Every house was decorated with wedding flowers and symbols of celebration. Something was happening. I heard voices nearby and slowed my pace. 2 men were talking, their words cutting through the festive atmosphere like a cold blade. Why is the city so lively today? One asked. Who's getting married? The other lowered his voice, but I heard him clearly. I heard it's the Lynn family's youngest son. What? Isn't that boy a complete idiot? Who would agree to marry him? It's the sister of that useless son-in-law the Lynn family kicked out. You know, the one whose spirit veins they ripped out a year ago. They didn't give her a choice. The Lynn family is ruthless. They're trying to wipe those 2 out for good. That idiot Lin Yang is a known brute. That girl is so thin and frail. She won't last a few days with him. A roar of fury erupted in my chest. I didn't say a word. I simply dropped the massive black bear carcass right where I stood. The heavy thuds startled the men, but by the time they turned around, I was gone. I was a blur of motion, racing toward the Lin estate. At the Lin family gates, the celebration was in full swing. Drums pounded and flutes wailed as a wedding carriage was carried into the courtyard. A young man in bright red wedding robes stood there, drool leaking from the corner of his mouth. This was Lin Yang. He had a vacant, stupid grin on his face as he reached for the carriage curtain. Wife. My wife. He babbled. A matchmaker tried to stop him. Young master, not yet. You haven't performed the ceremony. Get out, Lin Yang barked. He possessed a strange, freakish strength. With one kick, he sent the poor woman flying. He lunged into the carriage, his eyes glazed with a disgusting hunger. Bridal chamber. I want the bridal chamber now. The guests laughed and whispered behind their hands, wondering if the idiot was actually going to do it right there in the yard. But my heart sank. My sister, Ninger, was in there. She was so small. How could she survive this monster? Suddenly, Lin Yang let out a sharp, angry yelp. He scrambled back, dragging Ninger out of the carriage by her hair. He was incredibly violent, pulling her small body across the dirt. I saw 2 rows of bloody teeth marks on his wrist. She had bitten him. He gripped her throat with one hand, lifting her off the ground. Ninger's face turned bright red as she struggled, tears streaming down her cheeks. I won't marry you, she choked out. Lin Yang's face twisted in rage. You dare bite me? I'll kill you. He pulled back a massive fist, aiming straight for her head. Some guests closed their eyes, unable to watch a child's skull get crushed. If you hurt her, I roared, my voice shaking the very walls of the estate, I will slaughter every soul in the Lynn family. Everyone turned. They saw a shadow flickering toward them. I was too fast for their eyes to follow. A flash of red sword light cut through the air. A moment later, a head spun high into the sky before thudding into the dirt and rolling into the crowd. Silence fell. Then, the screaming started. It's Lin Yang. Lin Yang is dead. The courtyard turned into pure chaos. I didn't care. I pulled Ninger into my arms and covered her eyes so she wouldn't see the headless corpse of her tormentor. It's okay, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. You're safe now. Ninger recognized my voice and finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Brother, I don't want to get married. Please, no. Her cries felt like a dagger twisting in my heart. Don't worry, I promised. I'm here. No one will ever force you again. My son, what happened to you? A middle-aged man rushed out of the main hall. He collapsed over Lin Yang's body, wailing in grief. I looked at him, and the killing intent in my blood reached a boiling point. This was Lin Yi, the head of the Lin family. He was the man who had personally torn out my spirit veins and destroyed my cultivation a year ago. Lin Yi, you old dog, I spat. A year ago, you crippled me. Today, you tried to destroy my sister. New grudges, old debts, we settle them all today. Lin Yi looked up, his eyes wide with disbelief. You? How? I destroyed your Dantian myself. You're a waste. He didn't stop to think. Rage had blinded him. Seize them. Kill them both. I want them buried with my son. A group of Lin family guards charged at me like a pack of hungry dogs. I didn't even need to use my full sword intent for these pathetic weaklings. I swung my blade in a casual arc. Heads rolled instantly. The crowd gasped. Such a fast sword. You little beast. Lin Yi screamed. Keep going. Kill him. I quickly took off my belt and used it to strap Ninger firmly to my back. I couldn't leave her alone for a second. With her weight behind me, I went on the offensive. I lunged at the stronger guards, those in the innate realm. You think you can challenge us? One guard yelled, raising a heavy steel saber to block my path. You think that scrap metal can stop me? I countered. Our blades collided. The guard's eyes went wide as my sword sliced through his heavy saber like it was made of wet paper. The momentum didn't stop. My blade continued forward, opening his throat before he could even blink. Another body hit the floor. The whispers in the crowd grew frantic. He's killing innate realm experts now? Who is this monster? That's the son-in-law, Feng Wuchen, but he was supposed to be a cripple. Look at that sword. That must be a spirit-grade weapon. The Lin family is in serious trouble today. Lin Yi's face was contorted with pain as he watched his men fall. Stop. Everyone get back. I'll kill him myself. He began to gather his energy, his fists glowing with a dull yellow light. He lunged at me, aiming a heavy punch at my face. I didn't retreat. I met him head-on with my sword. No matter how fast you are, you're just an innate realm brat. Lin Yi bellowed. You can't defeat the Qi manifestation realm. The yellow light on his fists hardened into a protective shell. It was a Qi shroud. My sword hit the barrier and stopped cold. In this world, those who can manifest their Qi are on a different level. The boy is going to lose, someone murmured. The collision of my sword and his fist created a massive shockwave, blasting outward and cracking the stone tiles beneath us. The force threw me back several yards, but I dug my heels in and stood firm. I didn't waver. I took a deep breath, adjusting my rhythm. I reached deep into my soul and pulled out that single, lethal thread of sword intent. Still stubborn, Lin Yi sneered. Kneel and beg, and I might give you a quick death. He lunged again, his hand reaching out to grab my blade barehanded, protected by his Qi. Give me that sword. I narrowed my eyes. He thought his Qi shroud made him invincible. He was wrong. The moment Lin Yi's spirit energy touched the tip of my blade, his expression shifted. He realized too late that this wasn't the same strike as before. The power and speed behind this thrust had doubled. His eyes widened, bulging in disbelief. Sword intent, he gasped, his voice trembling. You're a sword cultivator? That's impossible. Old dog, I hissed. Just die. Cold sweat poured down Lin Yi's face. Against a normal innate realm fighter with a spirit sword, His chi shroud made him invincible. But a sword cultivator changed the math entirely. The protective barrier that no ordinary warrior could break was like paper against my sword intent. That is the terror of the sword. Driven by that intent, the tip of my burning sun sword pierced through his pale, yellow shroud. It was inches from his skin. Sword intent or not. Lynn roared, his face contorting. 100 crack fist. He unleashed a low-grade spirit rank technique. His fists hardened, becoming tougher than refined steel. He smashed his fist against my blade, shattering my momentum and sending a jolt of energy through my body. I felt a copper taste in the back of my throat. I nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. I was so close. So what if you're a sword cultivator? Lynn sneered, regaining his confidence. The innate realm is still the innate realm. You're destined to die by my hand. He began gathering his energy again, refusing to take any more risks. He couldn't understand how a boy whose spirit pulse had been ripped out was now a sword cultivator, but he knew one thing. If I lived, I would be the Lynn family's eternal nightmare. Die, kid, he screamed, lunging with the 100 crack fist. I didn't try to block it this time. I spun to the side, feeling the wind of his punch graze my ribs, and then I took off. I bolted in the opposite direction. Trying to run? Delusional. Lynn shouted. Who said I was running? I called back. Lynn looked up, and his face went pale. He realized my target. You dare? Why wouldn't I? I shouted. I wasn't running away. I was charging straight toward the other Lynn family guards, the ones still in the innate realm. I couldn't kill Lynn in one hit, but these guys? They were easy prey. The guards saw me coming like a demon with a bloodstained blade. They turned to flee, their courage shattered. But they weren't fast enough. I tore into them like a tiger in a pen of sheep. Every swing of my sword was met with a scream. Within seconds, 5 of their best men lay dead at my feet. In a small city like this, chi manifestation experts were rare. The innate realm warriors were the backbone of a family's power. By slaughtering them, I was ripping the foundation out from under the Lynn family. You little animal. I'll kill you, Lynn screamed, charging at me in a blind rage. I didn't flinch. I thought back to a year ago, the day he tore out my spirit pulse and destroyed my future. The moment you ruined me, I said, my voice cold. This became a fight to the death. As I cut down the very last guard, the heaven-devouring sword protocol whirled within me. The Long Yuan sword tower in my dantian trembled. I felt a surge of power. I had broken through again. 5th level of the innate realm. Old dog, I challenged. Take one more strike. Come on then. Lynn yelled, still blinded by fury. He hadn't noticed my breakthrough. At the 4th level, my sword intent was almost enough to pierce his shroud. Now, at the 5th level, it was a total transformation. When his fist met my blade again, I didn't give an inch. My sword sliced through his chi shroud like a hot knife through tofu, heading straight for his throat. What? No. Lin Yi's eyes filled with terror. He tried to scramble back, but it was too late. I was using the lethal sword of a madman. The sound of steel tearing through flesh echoed in the silent courtyard. The crowd stood frozen. Lin Yi, a master of the chi manifestation realm, was pinned by my sword. It had passed clean through his neck. His life faded in an instant. The surviving Lin family servants began to wail in terror. The master is dead. The master is dead. I didn't feel joy or relief. My expression remained flat. I wiped the blood off the burning sun's sword, adjusted Ninger on my back, and walked out of the Lin estate. The guests parted like the Red Sea, held back by the sheer weight of my killing intent. No one dared to breathe. It wasn't until I was long gone that they realized their hands were shaking. Behind me, the Lin family fell into chaos. Minutes later, an old man with deep wrinkles and a powerful aura emerged from the back courtyard. This was Lin Tsong, the former head of the family and a third-tier chi manifestation master. What happened? He demanded. The survivors knelt, trembling. The Fong family cripple. He came. He killed the master and the young lord. Lin Tsong staggered, his vision going dark. He clutched his chest and spat out a spray of blood. In that single moment, he seemed to age 10 years. The Fong family. I will make them pay with their lives. I didn't know about the old man's vow. I was almost back at our small shack when I felt something wrong. Ninger's body temperature was skyrocketing. Ninger, I called out. No response. I panicked and set her down. Her face was flushed a deep, sickly red, and her skin felt like burning coals. She was unconscious. My heart sank. I knew what this was. The evil fire phoenix physique. It was a rare gift, a natural affinity for fire that would make someone a god-tier cultivator. But it was also a curse. The fire inside her was too strong. It needed to be neutralized by water-based treasures constantly, or it would consume her from the inside out. I reached for her collar, checking for the cold marrow necklace she always wore to keep the fire in check. It was gone. Ninger, wake up. Don't scare me. I pressed my palms to her back, funneling my spirit energy into her to suppress the heat. After a few agonizing minutes, her eyes fluttered open. She looked at me, her voice a mere whisper. Brother, where's the cold marrow, Ninga? Where did it go? I asked, my heart racing. She looked at my blood-stained face and shook her head weakly. Cold marrow, no? I don't want it anymore. I don't want you to work so hard for me. She drifted back into unconsciousness before she could finish. My vision blurred with tears and rage. I knew exactly what had happened. Those two servants who came yesterday weren't just there to bully us. They were there for the necklace. Fong, she must have orchestrated the whole thing. She stole the very thing keeping my sister alive just to sell her off to the Lyns. Bastards, I growled. The Fong family had treated us like trash for years, and I had endured it. But the cold marrow was Ninger's life. Taking it was a death sentence. Stay strong, Ninger, I whispered. I'm going to get your things back. I left her in the shack and marched toward the main Fong estate, my killing intent radiating like a physical weight. I reached Feng Shi's private courtyard and let out a roar that shook the windows. Feng Shi, get out here now. Within seconds, the courtyard was swarming with armed servants, circling me like vultures. A nobleman in silk robes stepped out from the crowd, his movements light and arrogant. He looked at me with a playful, mocking smirk. I was wondering who was making all that noise, he sneered. So, it's just you, you useless trash. Shouldn't you be off celebrating your sister's wedding? What are you doing here? I didn't blink. I just stared him down. You told me to get out here, he continued, his voice rising. Are you tired of living? I ignored his insults. I forced my boiling rage deep down into my chest, keeping my voice steady but dangerous. Where's my sister's cold marrow? The cold marrow? He laughed. A little brat like her has no business owning something that valuable. Now, get lost before you embarrass yourself further. I didn't move an inch. My voice dropped an octave, turning ice cold. Where is the cold marrow? Feng Shi's brows furrowed in annoyance. Are you deaf? A piece of trash and a dying girl don't deserve such a treasure. His eyes sharpened with malice. You're not leaving? Fine. You men, break his legs and throw him out. The servants started to move, but I didn't give them a chance. Before anyone could react, I lunged. I moved like a ghost, blurring across the pavement. In a heartbeat, I was standing right in front of Feng Shi. I pulled back my fist and swung with everything I had. It wasn't a fancy technique, it was pure, raw speed. You trash. You dare touch me. Feng Shi's eyes widened in disbelief. He instinctively threw a punch to meet mine, putting his full power behind it. Our fists collided. A dull thud was immediately followed by the sickening crunch of shattering bone. Feng Shi let out a scream that sounded like a slaughtered pig. The servants froze. They watched in horror as Feng Shi's wrist twisted into an impossible shape. White bone and jagged tendons tore through his skin. His hand was completely destroyed. The servants couldn't breathe. Feng Shi was a young master of the Feng family, a cultivator in the innate realm. And yet, he had been crippled by a useless trash in a single move. I didn't stop. As soon as his hand broke, I snapped my leg up. My foot slammed into his abdomen with the force of a battering ram. The impact shattered his dantian instantly, destroying his cultivation forever. Before he could even scream again, I brought my boot down hard on his chest. I heard his ribs snapping like dry twigs. I leaned over his broken body and ripped open his silk robes. Tucked inside was a piece of white, warm jade. I pulled it out, wiped his blood off it, and tucked it carefully into my shirt like the treasure it was. Who do you think you are? I spat, looking down at him. Stealing from my sister? Cheer. A hysterical roar erupted from the entrance of the courtyard. A middle-aged man with a thin mustache rushed in. When he saw Feng Shi mangled on the ground, his eyes turned blood-red with hatred. "You bastard! You dare hurt my son? I'll kill you." This was Feng Chang'e, the third master of the Feng family. I felt a powerful surge of energy radiating from him. He was in the Qi transformation realm. I didn't dare underestimate him. In a flash, a crimson blade appeared in my hand, the Burning Sun sword. The lethal sword moves I had learned from that madman in the mountains flooded my mind. "A spirit sword?" Feng Chang'e gasped, his momentum faltering for a split second. "How could you have something like that?" In a small place like Feng City, spirit-grade weapons were incredibly rare. Seeing one in my hands shocked him, but he didn't have time to process it. I moved. My speed was blinding. Combined with the erratic, lethal angles of my sword style, even a Qi transformation expert like Feng Chang'e couldn't keep up. His eyes darted around, unable to track my blade. We passed each other in a blur. Slash. The sound of steel cutting through flesh was soft, almost delicate. A thin red line appeared across Feng Chang'e's throat. A second later, blood sprayed out like a fountain. He collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. That is the terror of a true sword cultivator. The servants looked at me as if I were a monster. The silence was heavy with the smell of fresh blood. You're a sword cultivator?" Feng Chang'e's eyes were wide even in death, unable to believe the truth. My spiritual roots had been ripped out. This shouldn't have been possible. "Murder! He's a murderer," a servant screamed. "Go tell the second master. Hurry." At that very moment, in the main hall of the Feng estate, a prestigious guest was being entertained. Yu Ching sat in the seat of honor, sipping her tea. Beside her, the second master, Feng Changyun, spoke with a flattering smile. "Miss you. Did the Qingchen sect only send you this time?" Yu Ching answered casually. "The sect elders will arrive in 7 days. I happened to be training nearby, so I came ahead of them." Feng Changyun nodded eagerly. "Miss you about the—" She cut him off. "Instead of asking pointless questions, why don't you bring out this genius who supposedly triggered the vision of the heavenly crane?" Of course, Feng Changyun said. A moment later, a young man in white robes with sharp features walked in. "Father, you called for me?" "Moa." Feng Changyun beamed. "Come here. This is Sister Yu from the Qingchen sect." Before he could even finish the introduction, Yu Ching tapped the hilt of her sword. Her blade partially cleared the scabbard, and a chilling sword intent locked onto Feng Mo. The pressure was suffocating. Feng Mo felt like he had been dropped into a pit of ice. He instinctively took a half-step back, his face pale. Yu Ching saw the retreat. A flash of deep disappointment crossed her beautiful eyes. "Flinching before a fight starts?" she muttered. "And you call yourself a genius?" "Oh, miss you," Feng Changyun stammered. She stood up, glancing at them with indifference. "A low-grade heaven-rank fire root. It's rare, I suppose. Enough to be a core disciple in the sect. But as for being a true top-tier genius, you're 100,000 miles away." The father and son stood there, stunned. Being a core disciple of the Qingchen sect wasn't enough? Yu Ching walked toward the door. "I heard the Feng family produced a monster who could summon the heavenly crane. I thought I'd finally found an opponent. It seems I wasted my trip. Your talent isn't even worth me drawing my sword." Feng Mo's face turned a sickly shade of green. He was a heaven-grade talent, a prodigy that sect elders fought over. To be dismissed like this by a mere disciple was a humiliation he couldn't swallow.